Well, hey, this is JSH, and today I'm going to do a tier list of the ways from Menagerie. Yeah, we're going to jump from base to the most recently released set, and I'm just going to go back and forth like that with these tier lists. Just keep things a little bit more interesting than just going linearly through the sets. Okay, just as a forewarning, I'm not as experienced with these newer cards as I am with a bunch of the old sets. Okay, so I'm kind of taking what other people have said to be um, true, even if I'm not 100% sure about it myself. But still, I agree with a lot of these placements anyway. We're actually going to skip the D tier for ways. I think all of them are at least pretty good. And we're going to jump straight into this. Okay, first up is Way of the Frog. Way of the Frog lets you put a card back on your deck instead of playing it this turn. This is handy when you got Terminal Collision, or if there's a card that would just be more useful next turn for whatever reason, or for preventing a reshuffle or something like that. I don't know. There's all kinds of ways you can use it. You can even use it mid-turn, I guess, with Mystic or something. I don't know. It doesn't seem amazing. And that's usually Frog in a nutshell. It's not amazing, but it's handy to have. You can smooth out your draws a little bit. I wouldn't say it has a huge impact on the game, generally speaking. So yeah, it's C tier. Not bad, but nice to have every now and then. Okay. Next up will be Way of the Camel. What this does is it lets you exile a gold instead of taking whatever action you were going to take. This is most useful when you couldn't have used the action anyway and you just have it in your hand for whatever reason, which happens to me fairly regularly. I haven't found this to pay off as much as I would think it would. It can work a little bit like Treasure Map, right? Like you exile 4 or 5 golds and then buy a gold later in the game and suddenly have all this gold. Sounds like a nice dream. I'm just finding generally that I don't use this when it's on the board. And I think that has a lot to do with actions just being way better than treasure most of the time. But still, you're going to find spots where Way of the Camel is pretty good. I just think that those spots are pretty narrow most of the time. Yeah, so it's not amazing. It's not going to wow you, but it's there. If nothing else, it's something you can do with your action when you can't pull off anything else that turn. Okay, now we're gonna jump up to the next tier here and put Way of the Worm in the B tier. Okay, and maybe there's some disagreement here. I don't know. Like I personally find that what Way of the Worm does best is it pushes the estate pile down. What it does is it lets you exile an estate instead of the action you were going to take. And I think that's decently strong. Okay, it moves you faster toward the end game, and that can be really powerful, especially when you're ahead. Of course, you got to be careful as well. It's also easy to forget you have Way of the Worm as an option. But yeah, 1 point is not nothing, especially in a close game. And yeah, there's definitely an element of pile control there. But I think most of the time it's not going to be all that significant. Most of the time this is just there, and it's not going to accomplish anything. But yeah, it has its spots. Okay, you do have to be careful with it too. So that's something to worry about, because you got to remember, like if nothing else, the estate pile only has 8 cards in it in a 2-player game, so it empties a lot more quickly than action piles do. All right, so next is Way of the Mule, which I'll also put in B tier. What it does is it turns an action into plus action plus coin instead. Most useful when you have actions in your hand you can't do anything else with that turn. Okay, so instead of doing nothing, they just give you a coin as if they were a copper. That's all right. It's pretty good. Like it's very rarely going to wow you. Most of the time it's just kind of average, but hey, I mean, it's better than nothing and perfectly average. That's why it's in B tier. Yeah, I don't have too much else to say about it. Yeah, what it does do is it encourages you to go heavy on actions instead of buying treasures, which you already should be doing anyway. So Mule just kind of helps reinforce a strategy that was already good. All right, next is Way of the Rat. Way of the Rat can be amazing. All right, like if you've got a really expensive card that you can just discard a copper for and gain a copy of. For instance, like if you can play your Grand Markets early and get them through Way of the Rat, that's often better than just straight up buying them. It's true for a lot of other cards as well. But I do find like a lot of the time that it just doesn't accomplish anything like I think it will. Or like I just forget that I have it, or I need to play the action more than I need to gain them. I don't know. I think it's pretty powerful, and I'm maybe just not that great with it. Yeah, it's pretty good, I think. Maybe underrated here. So next up we have Way of the Seal, which I think also belongs in the B tier. What this does is it gives you a coin instead of your action, and it lets you top deck any cards you gain for the rest of the turn. And this is really good. Okay, it lets you yeah, top deck any engine parts that you gain for next turn. And so you can set up some turns with this, and very casually so. You just play an action you didn't need this turn, and now you can do it. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like a huge game changer most of the time, but it can be really solid. Yeah, definitely kind of on the high end of the average ways here. Not too much else to say about it. I think it's better than most top deckers because I feel like the barrier for getting it, or like the cost of getting it, is pretty low. But yeah, I think that's a good spot for it. Next is Way of the Mole, which I'm also going to put here in B tier. Way of the Mole lets you dump your current hand and draw. What is it? Is it a 2 or a 3 card hand? Dude, I can't remember. Let me check real quick. It's a 3 card hand. So it's kind of like Minion, but worse on yourself. Still, like if you've got nothing good in your hand, that's not too bad. And you can kind of get endless turns. Like the less junk you have in your deck, the more this is going to do. But I feel like you also don't really want to be playing it because you'd rather be playing productive actions on your turn. So yeah, Way of the Mole decks, they can go pretty far on a turn, but I feel like they also kind of require specific types of cards for this to really be amazing. Still, I mean, mulliganing your hand like that, it can be pretty strong in the right scenario. You just want to make sure, like, if you've got treasures in your hand, like, you're going to dump those, right? So make sure that you didn't want those treasures. Sometimes it's good to just stop with this thing. You got to watch your shuffles as well. So yeah, it's a pretty all right card. Next up is going to be Way of the Goat. You might be surprised to see it this low. What it lets you do is trash a card from your hand instead of playing your action. And you would think this would be amazing, of course, because it's a trasher, but remember that you're basically playing a card terminally, and it's trashing a single card. And that's a really, really weak trashing effect. Okay, like it's probably gets better later in the game when it's used to trash curses or something like that than it is early game. Like early game trashers, you want to be productive or to trash really fast. Goat doesn't do that. Okay, so yeah, it's not bad just because obviously you can use the action that it's taking over later, and that's pretty nice. But I do feel like it's a bit more disappointing than you would expect it to be. Still, yeah, it's all right. It's a trasher. It's not going to be terrible ever, but there you go. Next is Way of the Sheep. Way of the Sheep. Are we at the A tier already? I feel like we are. Okay. And just in case you're not aware, ways are very good. Okay. So Way of the Sheep lets you replace the card with +2 coins. And you might be thinking, that's not that great. It's only 2 coins, JSH. But I mean, how many times have you had an action that couldn't actually do what you wanted for your turn, and you would have rather had it be money, right? Like there's that old should have had a silver meme that Adam Horton came up with like years and years ago. I mean, there's plenty of times that this happens. Like it helps you hit 5 or something like that. And that's been my experience with Way of the Sheep. Like it just comes in handy way more than you're expecting it. Okay. And also like if you just got a big deck with lots of actions and there's some stuff left at the end of your turn, this can help you hit important price points. Yeah. Way of the Sheep is really nice. It's really nice. Next up is Way of the Otter, which is kind of a similar story. It's +2 cards instead of +2 coins. But, you know, as I've kind of established in prior tier list video, +2 cards isn't terrible. It really isn't, especially these days with more heavy trashing, more cards that do more off of a single play. Yeah, like just having 2 extra cards in your hand can be pretty darn good. Of course, you need plus actions to make this really great. But the key is, like, you're not always going to do it. Sometimes you're going to have your regular action effect. Sometimes you'll have Way of the Otter. And this is just a really great option to have available to you, drawing right away. I do think it's weaker than the other draw option that we'll get to shortly. But yeah, it's really, really good. Okay, and then real quick, Way of the Monkey. It lets you turn one of your actions you play into a buy, and yeah, buys are nice. So all 3 of these are kind of giving you the vanilla effect here, and it just goes to show how good those vanilla effects remain this far into Dominion's lifespan. Yeah, just the option to always have a plus buy. There you go. Way of the Monkey is pretty good. Okay, even if not incredible, it's still A tier, solid. All right, now we're getting into some of the ways that are a little more complicated. So here's Way of the Butterfly. I'm putting it in A tier. It might actually deserve to be an S. I'm not entirely sure. So what it does is it lets you return a card, or no, you trash the card that you play. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, you return this card to the pile and you gain a card that costs exactly $1 more, or 1 coin more, rather. And this is way better than it sounds. Yeah, you upgrade a card like as a self upgrade on a card. It also doesn't empty pile, so you don't have to worry about it like ending the game faster. I guess sometimes it's pretty cool. There's a lot of nuance to this card, and I'm not like super amazing with it, so I don't want to elaborate too much on its strategies. You can go read the page on the wiki about it, or ask on Discord if you want to know more of stuff you can do with Way of the Butterfly. But suffice to say, um, yeah, it lets you kind of speed your deck up by upgrading a card from your hand. And there's probably a lot of combos to it that I'm not like super up on. Like one thing you can do is you can play a 7-cost card and gain a province as well. 4-cost cards to duchy, these are also an option. So yeah, there's like a lot of little nuances to Way of the Butterfly that make it really strong. But then there's also boards where it doesn't do a whole lot too. So I guess like keeping it out of S tier makes sense. Yeah, pretty strong. I'm not an expert on it, so I don't want to like go into too much detail there. But yeah, okay. Next is Way of the Ox. The next vanilla effect, of course, you can change a card to +2 actions. So you'll always have a Necropolis available, basically. Okay, you can make any action a village, like a really weak village, but still a village. Okay, this combos really well with terminal draw cards like Smithy. You can just load up on them now since you have Way of the Ox. But of course, there are plenty of other situations where you just want 2 actions instead of whatever your cards were giving you. And Way of the Ox is there for you. It's practically S tier, but I feel like maybe it's maybe it could offer a little bit more to bump up into that tier. Still really, really strong. You're not gonna skip it too often. I think when it's on the board, it's there for you. Okay. Similarly, Way of the Pig changes any card to +card +action, a cantrip. Obviously, this is great for dealing with ruins, but it's also good like if you just can't play a card this turn, or you would rather draw another card instead of getting whatever effect it had. Yeah, Way of the Pig, it's a nice like clean way to get through actions in your hand and keep moving along. Yeah, I mean, it solves terminal collision quite beautifully, I think. It's a very good card. Yeah, I don't think it's S tier because I don't think it has like super deep impact on the game, but yeah, it's really nice to have. It definitely encourages you to open double terminal, if nothing else. Okay, next, I think these are probably going to be like the S tiers. It's where we're getting to. So, Way of the Turtle, it lets you set aside a card, and you can either play it at the start of your next turn free, or you can save it until the next turn. This is just amazing flexibility Way of the Turtle gives you. You can also keep a card benched forever if you want to, like a Ruins or something, but that's pretty weak. Okay, what you really want to do is get good effects at the start of your turn. You can get fake villages out of this. You can just get cards that you don't need now and play them later. You can kick off big turns. You can start kicking off a turn several turns in advance with it. Like just the amount of stuff you can do with this is amazing, and there's no limit to how much you can turtle. You could have like 7 cards turtled, right? So yeah, it's a very, very flexible, very powerful card. It's definitely deserving of S tier, in my opinion. So is this one, Way of the Squirrel. What this does is it's kind of like Turtle. You save a card you don't even save the card. You just get +2 cards next turn. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Of course, obviously you don't get the cards right away, so you don't see it, but you get more than 1 turn in Dominion most of the time, right? So it's really good like to load up on these when it's going to be more valuable to have those +2 cards. And remember, powerful cards like Wharf and Enchantress have this effect of drawing 2 cards next turn. So it's very, very often worth it just to play a card as Squirrel so that you get more cards next turn. Okay. Yeah, I don't have too much else to say about it. I think, yeah, if you just try it sometimes and like play actions as a Way of the Squirrel when you're not sure about it, you're going to find it pays off more often than you think it does. Yeah, very, very strong way. Okay, now we're getting into like the absolute top here. So here's Way of the Horse. Way of the Horse lets you return a card to its pile, and then you get a horse effect. You draw 2 cards in 1 action. Not much to say other than this is incredible. Okay, one of the things it can do is facilitate endless loops, and you're going to have to look up an article if you don't believe me or you're not familiar with this, but there's, suffice to say, there's a lot of really crazy combos you can do. Like you can play cards and then return them to the deck and or to the supply, regain them and play them again. There's all kinds of stuff it can do. Among other things, let's say, for instance, you use a command card and then play that card as Way of the Horse. You're returning nothing and getting free draw out of it. Yeah, this is pretty busted. Also, get rid of actions you don't need anymore. Sometimes you just play it as a desperation, right? Like you just trash this card that you had to draw some more cards. I've done that plenty of times and it's paid off. Yeah, Way of the Horse, really, really powerful, really flexible. I personally don't understand like the complete nuance of using this card. But if you want to get good at the game, maybe you should read up on it and learn more than I know about this thing. But yeah, definitely S tier. I agree with that. Really, really strong way for sure. Okay, next is Way of the Owl. The Way of the Owl is a doozy, man. Okay, when this card is in the supply, you always have draw to X available. It draws you up to 6 cards in your hand. Yeah, that's great. I mean, you think about like all those cool Festival Library or Festival Watchtower decks. Well, now you can do them with any action, all right, because of Way of the Owl. I feel like it's a little bit trickier to use than Way of the Otter. Like with Way of the Otter, you just kind of, I guess, blindly draw. But with Way of the Owl, you got to have a bit more of a setup going on. But that's fine, you know, that's fine. Like one of the things that you can do is like trash cards from your hand early, then draw up again. You can do this a little bit more freely than you could before. And Way of the Owl decks are just kind of wonky. All right, I often feel lost when I'm playing them. Yeah, it's very, very powerful. There are some boards maybe where it's not that relevant, but I think like it's at least going to be used like once or twice in most games at minimum when it's available. So yeah, that's a really strong one. Next is Way of the Chameleon. So what this does is it changes cards. So if they say plus X coins, now that's plus X cards. Or if it says plus X cards, that's plus X coins. Okay, I could be here all day talking about like different combos that you can get with this. Suffice to say, this is completely busted amazing. There are some cards like Poorhouse, for instance, that are just crazy with Way of the Chameleon. Yeah, generally, coin to card is going to be a little bit more powerful just because draw is so good, but you shouldn't overlook that you can also gain coin for the card, for the plus card effects. The worst thing about this card, honestly, is that it makes you have to sit there and think so much on your turns. Which is why I'm not really sure I love what it does to the game, but it does add a lot of flexibility, and it's definitely a very interesting one. So yeah, it almost feels like it's on another level from these cards, just with the added complexity. Not even so much just the power that it adds to the game. Like it's almost like a different beast from the rest of these. But yeah, there you go. And similarly, that's how I feel about Way of the Mouse, which is number 1. Of course, it adds an extra card to the supply, and you can play any card as that card. Now, it's always a cheap card, but some of them are just plain bonkers ridiculous. And again, like with Way of the Cam, I'm not going to sit here and list all of them, but just as an example, Encampment is completely stupid with Way of the Mouse, right? Because you can just freely play Encampment over and over again. And there's plenty of other cards like that. Every now and then you get a bad mouse, okay, but most cards make really good Way of the Mouse targets. So yeah, just always pay close attention to what's available in that Way of the Mouse slot, and you're probably going to be using it a fair amount most of the time. It's very strong, completely turns the game on its head, and it's deserving of being number 1, I think. Very little question in my mind. All right, well, here we go. This is my Ways tier list. Maybe this isn't perfect. I mean, Ways are so strong, you could probably bump all of these up a tier and feel fine about it. But I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think, any disagreements. If you like this format where I'm going to go back and forth, let me know, and I'll keep doing that because I think that's what I'm going to do. And I'll see you next time for Intrigue.